Hi folks, this is Vint with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and welcome to episode 44 of the DGA podcast. I'm your host, and with me in the virtual studio is...
Co-host, aka secretary, aka servant, idly.
Yes, servant. Wow.
Servant.
Okay, yes, we're starting off great. Slavery. Okay.
By the beard!
There we go.
Yes, sound pad. There we go. I have a couple of sound effects, nothing too crazy, but anyway. It's been almost an entire year since we've done one of these, and I felt well enough today to actually do one. So, yeah, we're just going to have a little bit of fun with this. A little rusty, though, just we'll say that. So, lately I've been noticing a lot of board games going digital. For example, there was a recent Stone Age digital adaptation made, which was... Stone Age is a board game that's been around for at least 10 years, and they finally made a digital version of it. And then Point Salad recently became digital, even though originally it's a card game. And I'm thinking to myself, there are a lot of digital board games out there that don't have a board game companion. So this list is just, it's titled Digital Board Games That Aren't Board Games. And they're in no particular order, just because there's quite a few of them. And on top of that, we had some trouble with this list. We didn't know where to draw the line exactly, because some games are kind of board games, but they're also, very digital in the way they play. So it was difficult for us to say, no, this is a board game, but is it really a board game? Is it more video game than board game? So there may be some, a couple on this list that might be a little quote unquote controversial, but who cares? It's just for fun.
A little gray area.
Exactly, a gray area. So I guess we'll just jump right into it, just because the list is somewhat long. The first one that we wanted to cover was Dicey Dungeons. Again, no particular order here. Dicey Dungeons is you roll some dice and you assign these dice to various pieces of equipment that you might have or different abilities that you might have in order to defeat the enemy. So it's kind of like Slay the Spire-ish, kind of, sort of. But it's more dicey in the way it plays. It's more comparable to, say, Spell Rogue, if I had to make any sort of comparison.
I would say it's more akin to One Deck Dungeon. I think it's...
You think
so?
Is that
the one with the dice? You have to place the dice in
yes.
a certain...
Yes, with One Deck Dungeon, you do roll a bunch of dice, and then you assign them to various cards to try and cover up as many things as you can, because whatever you leave uncovered will usually hit you in some kind of bad way. In this game, it's more like you're spending these dice that you're rolling to modify them or to attack the enemy, and Spell Rogue is very similar to that mechanic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But what do I know? I'm a critic. What do I know?
You're just a gaming critic.
I'm just a gaming critic. No, who cares? Yeah.
By the beard!
I need a different one. Again. All right, hold on.
I found some more kite. There's
no,
more
no,
kite.
all right,
Shut up, Wesley.
Thank you. All right, enough of that. So, I told you I'm rusty.
A little bit.
My sound effects are not really titled, so I have no idea what this is.
Do not hug me.
Okay. Well, so did you like this game?
I loved this game. I thought it was a really fun dice game. I didn't get to play it for too long, but the stuff that I did play, it really did remind me of One Deck Dungeon.
Okay.
So,
well, you're wrong.
and
But
that's
okay.
another...
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Your opinion is wrong.
I like Spell Rogue too, or the other one.
There's Spell Rogue.
Okay.
There's quite a few of them. Yeah.
All right.
But we'll get into that in a little bit. So that's the first one on our list. The next one I wanted to touch on was more of a worker placement game. And this is one that I really got into for a while. The developer hasn't touched it for about a year or two, but it's still a really good game on Steam. It's Dice Tribe's Ambitions is a worker placement game where there are a number of different goals that you could try to complete. With every run that you're doing, you're trying to complete one objective out of the many that are possible. And it's your choice. You can decide what kind of objective you're going for. And what you're doing is it's a dice roller / worker placement. You roll these dice and you assign them to get resources for you. You have to get resources. You have to get food, for example, to feed your people. The more dice you have, the more people you have to feed. You can specialize these dice. They start off as white dice, like typical basic 1 through 6 dice, 6-sided dice. But then you can specialize them. They can become certain professions, and that also changes their faces. So they might have 3 3s and 3 4s or something like that on their dice. So it's a matter of like trying to figure out what kind of deck you want to build, how you want to specialize, what goal are you going for, and each goal will lead you down a different path on like what you need to do to complete that goal. One goal might be you need to run a gauntlet. Another goal might be you have to get a specific amount of food or store up a bunch of food. It all depends on what you get. Have you played this game at all?
I did, and it was really fun. It had a steep learning curve at first because of all the different professions, I guess, and all the faces and things like that, but I really enjoyed this one. It reminded me a lot of which one was it? I think it's Stacklands, just because of like all the cards like in between, but it has nothing to do with Stacklands.
No, Stacklands is more like that one cultist simulator where you're building cards on a table over time and you're organizing them by just dragging them and combining them. This game is
maybe the simple UI and the simplicity of the graphics, maybe that's why it reminds me of Stacklands. But I really did like this one a lot, and I love the changes that the developer actually made onwards.
And there are custom difficulty settings too. So you can do a scenario, you can do, there's a bunch of things you can do with this game. So if you like dice rolling and worker placement, check this one out. It's pretty fun. The next one I want to touch on was a game called Circadian Dice. I love games like this. It reminds me of, there's a game in my board game collection called Dice Forge where you're popping off faces of the dice and replacing those faces with different faces. So you're it's a dice upgrade kind of game. In this game, it's a roguelike in the sense that you're going to be fighting waves of monsters and they attack you at the end of their turn, but you're going to be with the coins that you earn, you're going to be buying new faces for your dice, and you even get more dice over time. So it's a dice builder. And this is probably my favorite kind of game because there's so much customization. You know, I want this die to focus on getting me gems so I can use my special abilities. I want this die to focus on defense. I want this die to cleave or to focus on capturing the enemy to give me a buff while that enemy is within my prison. So there's so much you can do with this, and there are so many classes that you can be, and they have different abilities. There's different difficulty settings as well, different relics that you can bring with you into every run. So like the game is somewhat puzzly because like certain classes are good against certain levels, but at the same time you can still pick a class and just roll with it. And I really, really like this game.
Yeah, I loved this game. This is a great one. I have a feeling that this one would be a little bit hard to put into a board game. Maybe, but I can see like both a competitive nature to this and a co-op nature to this. So
you don't see a whole lot of games like this board game wise because of the mechanic of physically taking out faces on a die and then replacing it with something else. We have Dice Forge in our collection which does that, and there's another one that we got more recently last year. I don't remember the name of it. But it came with bags and bags and bags and bags of dice faces, and trying to organize them all was a nightmare. But it was still fun when we played it, but it's difficult to constantly keep changing dice faces. So I can see why a game like this wouldn't be as popular on the board game table physically, but it's still a really good quote-unquote digital board game, in my opinion. I guess moving on, this is more for you Magic the Gathering and other card game fans, this is called Artifact. This is a game that Valve actually created. And at first, it was a collectible card game where you actually bought cards, and, you know, it was a kind of pay-to-win thing, as is typical of other, you know, Magic the Gathering-esque games. But it didn't do so well, and it kind of got shelved for a while, and then they redid it. And everything was, they did like 2 different versions of it. The one version they released was like the classic, but everything is available. You don't buy cards anymore. Everything's just available for everybody. The only thing I don't like is there's no, like, other than the matches where you can play against the computer or with other people, there's no unlock system. There's no permanent progression, even if it's just like extra like card backs or something. Like, they didn't do anything to give me a reason to keep playing. I love the deck building. There's like 5 different colors, and you're typically in this game, you've got 3 different lanes, and you're trying to control each lane as best as you can. You've got a main like hit point thing that you're trying to protect in each lane, and your goal is to destroy 2 of your opponent's lanes. So like, it's really fun. I love this card game, and I love how diverse the different colors are in the way they behave. It's just a shame it didn't do as well as it could have, and it's a shame that Valve didn't do more with it to make it better. But I still enjoy this game. It's something I would continue playing if I had a reason to keep doing so. We played a couple of matches together. Did you enjoy those matches, or?
I did. I'm very bad at this, but that's why I loved playing against the AI, preferably. Mm-hmm. And what really upset me is that in order to actually level up your character and get new card packs, if you didn't play the
multiplayer
or the free for all, where everything was unlocked, if you actually played the original, you actually was forced to play with other people, and that was kind of hard because I was very bad at the game, and I liked practicing with the AI, and it just stunk that I couldn't really get anywhere practicing with the AI. It was hard, like, in that sense. Mm-hmm. But in that sense, Dominion is very similar, because Dominion is just card games, isn't it? It's just a deck builder, and there's really no level up progression, so this is a perfect little from digital to board game or to card game thing.
Yeah. I would disagree that Dominion is similar, only because
not with the lanes and the mechanics and things like that. I was talking about more of gameplay.
Right. I would compare this more to games like Magic the Gathering and Star Wars, the living card game, where you've got a table presence. You're putting cards physically onto a table, and you're either attacking other cards across from you, or you're attacking a main base or something to whittle down your opponent's hit points. Star Wars, the deck builder game, is more akin to this, I think, as well. Dominion is just whatever cards you have in your hand, you use them, and that's it. They come back, and yeah. So this has more unit presence. So yeah, I mean, I like those style of games. It's just, typically I find something wrong with every one I play, except for Star Wars, the living card game I really liked, and this one I really liked. Magic the Gathering I can't stand, because you're only drawing 1 card at the end of your turn or whatever, and you barely touch your deck, unless you're blue, because you can scry everything. But that's a different podcast. So, yeah, anyway, I think I deserve a...
Stay on target.
There we go. So, next one is a game that you're probably more familiar with than I am, because you've played it more. It's called Age of Rivals. It's a 1v1 game. You can play against the computer, or I believe you can play against another player as well. It's you're building up a tableau of 8 cards, if I remember correctly, and they do different things, and there's different phases. So, like, you can get resources from your cards, which you can use to spend during, like, a draft phase. Like, you get to draft cards to add to your tableau, and then when everyone is done drafting cards, when the 2 players are done drafting cards and spending resources to get these cards, then there's like a battle phase, where you can actually, some of your cards can attack your opponent's cards, and you can wipe them out. And ultimately, though, you're trying to earn victory points through certain culture cards that you might have in your tableau that haven't been destroyed by warfare. And there are, I think, some military victory points you can get as well. It's all a blur because I haven't played it in several years. But
Same. I don't. The only thing I remember is that I loved this game. I spent so much time on this game, and there was kind of a meta cheese to it. And I remember like destroying like even PvP players, and I remember it not being so fun because I imagined those other players being like, "What the heck is she doing? Like, why is she kicking my butt?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm kind of cheesing it a little bit, but I know the meta, I know the strategy." So it was, I can relate to how frustrating that could be. So, but
it's unfortunate that certain games have a meta like that, where one like it's. I wish more games like this were more balanced, in the sense that there isn't a meta, because it's no fun looking at the leaderboards, the top 100 people or whatever, and seeing the exact same deck or the exact same characters or the exact same abilities. You know what I mean? It's just, I want to be able to get there on my own through my own creativity rather than relying on some kind of unbalanced meta. It bothers me when games let that happen, but that's just me.
This is a good game. This reminds me of Fantasy Realms, I think it is, where you have like a bunch of cards, and then like depending what cards you have,
you get a score.
Yeah, you get scores. I mean, granted, this one has like attack mechanics and things like that, I think. But
it's a very it's kind of similar to, it's like a very light Civilization, the card game, kind of sorta, but it's less of a table presence. Like units are physically here and there. This is more of like a tableau builder. So yeah.
I can see this one being transformed into an actual living card game.
Age of Rivals, that's what that was. The next one, Chambers of Devious Design. I think this game is very inspired by Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which I've never played, but I have a digital version of it, and it's similar. I've did between two castles. Anyway, this is a game where each player is building a castle with rooms, and the rooms are different Tetramino pieces. And these rooms have doors. And if you manage to completely close off a room by connecting all the doors, you get whatever special ability that room has to use, and you get some extra points. And during this game, you're competing for objectives. You're trying to get so many economy rooms or so many magic rooms or whatnot. So like you're trying to build your castle in a way that keeps you open, where you can connect pieces that come up, but at the same time you're trying to fulfill things. And there's also an attack, take that kind of thing in this game, where you can put cannons down and other weapons and actually destroy your opponent's rooms, which is kind of fun. This is a cool little digital abstract game that, again, if you've played Castles of Mad King Ludwig, you'll notice some similarities here. Although it's different enough to where it's its own thing. Did you play this?
I have not played it, but I have seen you stream it, and it looks really fun. It looks really interesting. It reminds me of the board game. That Castles that you just mentioned, what's it called? Castles of Magistrate?
Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Mad King Ludwig. Yes, that was close. But,
yes. Mad King Laundry. Yes.
Yes. So, is that a video game?
No, Castles of Mad King Ludwig is an actual tabletop game. There is a digital version. There is a board game version called Castles of Between Two Castles, which is kind of like a follow-up to Mad King Ludwig, but it's one of those games where you and your partner to your left or right, like you're both building a castle together. You're building the same castle together. I haven't played that in forever either, but there are variations that came after Mad King Ludwig. In fact, we recently just played Blueprints, the board game Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. And in that game, you're trying to close off doors and rooms in order to get victory points and to get special abilities. So that whole Mad King Ludwig line of products, board game wise, is similar to this one.
Yes.
but not exactly. There are some minute differences.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because I was gonna say it reminded me of a board game that we had played, um, kind of recently, and I don't remember the name of it.
that's okay. Yeah, Castles. Well, Blueprints is one I covered solo. I
Yeah.
don't know which one you're talking about.
The one that we played it was like these big tiles, and we had to like build our own uh, room or house or whatever it was, and we kind of had to like bid on house tiles, or room tiles.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah, you get back to me on that. In the meantime,
Open salami.
all right, we'll move
Yes.
on. Yeah. Okay, the next one I want to touch on. It's like this game is called No Time to Relax. It's kind of like the game of life, and it's also kind of like those Flash games that I played as a kid, where it's like a time management game of life thing where you have to manage your character and make sure that you can see him through the day and survive and earn money and all that stuff. I've played a couple of those Flash games back when Flash was a thing, but in this game, you're actually competing for victory points. You start off in a little crappy apartment and you're competing against other people, although you can play solo if you want to. You're going to get a job. You're going to go to school. You're going to complete courses. You're going to buy things for your apartment. And your ultimate goal is to increase your victory points in different categories. There's happiness, money, health, and school education, I think. And the player with the most of those points in those categories will win the game after so many weeks or whatever it is. So you can actually like buy a new apartment. Like you can actually move to a better apartment at the cost of more rent. So yeah, if you like those life simulator, those turn-based life simulators where you're trying to manage victory point or trying to manage action points to do everything for your character within a given day, that's what this game is. And it does so very well. I enjoy playing it. The only thing I don't like is that typically every day there's some kind of bad event card that you draw that wipes out your money or wipes out something, and there's no setting that I can see that stops that. Like there's no way to turn that off. That's the only thing I don't like about it. I'm sure it's there for balance purposes, but still, I don't like it. We played this together, I think,
Yes.
at one point, and you
Yeah,
liked it?
I liked it. Yeah, it just reminded me of the game of life, honestly. It was a lot of fun. It was frustrating, but because like that competitive nature gets to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to travel this way, and then you have to kind of plan out your route. And if it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, the other person can come behind you and just like demolish you in financial wise. So it's frustrating in that sense because I'm very competitive by nature, a little bit.
I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love you too.
So that was No Time to Relax, in case you're curious. The next
Oh, Dice Manor. That's what I remember.
Dice Manor. Okay.
Yes. Sorry. It was
Similar.
very similar to that game that we had mentioned two games ago. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yep. This game is probably one of the best digital board games. It's called Gremlins Inc. It's been around for quite a while. And in this game, you're competing to reach a certain victory point goal, although you can set it for a number of turns. You can set different victory point conditions. It's a very quirky, very steampunk, very fantasy-like board game where you're moving around this board. It's like Monopoly on steroids. If I had to, but you're not really buying properties. You've got cards in your hand, and you use these cards for both movement and for their abilities if you land on their spots. So you might have a card that says the bank, and then a number 6 at the top. You can either spend that card, just discard it to move 6 spaces, or you can hold on to that card until you reach the bank space and then play that card when you're there to get whatever effect it says. You can go to jail in this game, and there's actually like victory points to be made in jail. If you do bad behavior, you can change your jail reputation. There's jail reputation in this game, and you can actually like some certain characters have different abilities, and some thrive in jail. So it's so weird how this game plays, but it's so fun, though it's swingy. It's very RNG heavy. There's a lot of dice rolling. There's a lot of instances where on a 6 you go to jail, or on a 6 you lose this much money, or on a, it's just this game will screw you over to high heaven. It always does for me anyway. But it's a lot of fun. There's a politics system. There's a karma system in this game where if you do too many bad things, that actually works against you over the course of the game. More bad things will happen to you through various card effects. I love this game. It's hard, and it's the AI cheats, I think, but I love this game. We played it together recently.
Yeah, this game is a good game. It's very difficult. It can be very frustrating. Like you said, it can be very swingy. I think they had an automated Gremlins coming out, or maybe it got canceled because it's been forever. But wasn't that kind of a solo mode?
I remember seeing a card game. All I remember is Gremlins Inc. the card game. There was a demo for that a very long time ago during one of the Next Fests, but I've not seen anything of that lately.
Yeah, it was called Automated Competitor or something like that, unless that's just a DLC.
I think that's just a DLC.
Oh, that's just the DLC.
By default, you can play against the computer already, so I don't know what the automation thing is all about. I think it's more content for the base game, to be honest.
Probably, yeah. It has a lot of DLC, but I'm really shocked that this isn't actually a board game. Like, I'm completely shocked about that.
It could be a board game.
It really could be.
Yeah, I mean, aside from having to manage a lot of components, like, this could be a lot of fun. So yeah, that was Gremlins Inc. If you're looking for a true, authentic board game experience, this is it. And it does some really crazy things. So I'll let you discover the rest of those on your own. Let's see what we got here. Terraformers. This is a game that I'm on the fence with. Is it really a board game? But the more I think about it, it's turn-based and it's engine buildy. It's very engine buildy. This is a game where you're pretty much terraforming Mars, and in the DLC you can actually take that beyond Mars and build up other planets as well in a limited fashion. It's called the New Frontiers DLC. But anyway, in the base game, what you're doing is it's turn-based, and you're trying to build cities on Mars, and you're trying to earn so many victory points by a certain date, typically. There are different scenarios that will give you victory points for doing different things, or make you focus on different things. Or there's like a skirmish mode that you can play. You can set the difficulty, and you can have at it. And again, ultimately, turn-based, there's a lot of different resources, and you're trying to build up your cities on this planet, and you're also trying to terraform it in the process. And that terraforming could be heat, it could be greenery, like fauna stuff. You can spread bacteria to different regions, but this bacteria over here only works in temperatures between this and this, so you have to, before you can play this bacteria or this animal card, you have to first terraform the planet to this particular setting first. It's got a lot of board game mechanics in it, if that makes any sense. You play this as well.
Yes.
What do you think?
I'm in love with this game. I love the fact I say that it could be a board game because you can actually keep track of your scoring. You can keep track of all your resources like around the world, because in most board games, if you have like trackers and things, you can keep track of your scoring.
Terraforming Mars is similar. Yeah, you can track everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas in video games, sometimes it's really hard to do that, and the game just does it for you. But in this one, you can sort of do it too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, oh my gosh, I can't say enough good things about this game.
My only beef with it is that the way the difficulty settings are laid out, what they have is they've got a chart of the different scenarios, like all the different scenarios, like in vertical listing. And then on the top and horizontal listing is like difficulty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. but you'd think that you'd be able to play every scenario starting at difficulty 1. Not the case. This scenario can only be played from 4 up to 12. This scenario can be played 1 through 12. This scenario is, you can play it between 6 and... I'm like, why can't I play this scenario on an easier setting? That never made any sense to me. Maybe they just couldn't figure out how to balance it. I don't know. But like certain scenarios are locked between certain difficulties, and I don't like that. But like I said, there is a sandbox mode that you can play, and you can set the difficulty. You can fine tune it however you want for the most part. So that's what I play on instead, and I still have a fun time with it. So that was Terraformers, not to be confused with Terraforming Mars, although kind of similar in the way, everything plays. I'm going to move on to Missile Cards. This is a game that you had recommended. It's not a very terribly complex game. It's a little RNG heavy. The way this game plays is you've got... Let me skip ahead in the video. You've got pretty much... It's like Missile Command, the ye old Missile Command from the Atari 2600 and beyond, where meteors are coming out of the sky, and you get different cards with different, like, attack strength values. Like, you have different weapons, and you're attacking these meteors as they're falling from the sky. And you're trying to prevent them from hitting the surface and taking out your structures. You have batteries which charge your weapons. You've got different abilities. I'll continue skipping here. Just because nothing's going. There we go. So, have you played this? Because I know you've seen me play it, but have you played it?
I think I played it once or twice, and it was okay. It was very simple. That's why I figured it could be like a real life card game / board game.
There's that one game that we played together that was like, it's called 5 Minute Meteor or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact name of it, but I think it was just called Meteor. But every round was like a minute long, and we had to quickly shuffle cards. We had to like quickly assign cards here and there. We only had 5 rounds, and each round was a minute. It's kind of similar to that, but this is turn-based. It's not real time. And you're trying to use the cards that you have with the battery that you have to take out these things before they hit your main base or whatever. It's okay. It's too RNG heavy for me. And on top of that, progression is incredibly slow. There is a permanent unlock system, but you have to play so many games to just unlock a simple thing. It's just, it's not like the progression just doesn't happen fast enough to hold my interest.
Yeah, so it's grindy.
It's very grindy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you like this more than I did, to be honest. But
I liked it. It was pretty chill. I think. I don't know.
You're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm kidding. Anyway, so moving on to a game called Solitarica. I mean, it's solitaire, but it's got special abilities. It's got roguelike stuff in it. You pick a deck. It could be a warrior, a monk, wizard, whatever it is. And there are variants to these decks as well, like upgrades that you can purchase. And what you're trying to do with Solitarica is you're doing what you would typically do in Solitaire. You're trying to create like a chain of cards that go from like, 10, 9, 8, something in a successive row, either ascending or descending. But in this game, like, enemies have special abilities that might do something to your cards. You have special abilities that you'll eventually get that do different things. It's got like that whole, if you've ever played, was it Gems of War, and I'm thinking of Puzzle Quest, where you match green gems to fill the green bar, and match blue gems to fill the blue bar, and then you use your blue bar to activate a special ability that's blue or green. It's kind of similar here. It's got similar mechanics to that. So it's solitaire, but with like a mana system with the different colors, and each enemy does something different, and does different attacks, that kind of thing. And there is a permanent progression. You're unlocking new decks and new upgrades as you go. You played this for quite a while, if I remember right.
I did. I loved the game. It was fun. It was free on Epic, and I nabbed it like as soon as I saw it, because I love classic games that have an ability twist. You know, when I first played match 3 games, like Bejeweled,
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. It was great. Then I started playing match 3 battles, and I could never. I'll never play a regular match 3 game ever again. Kind of the same thing with this, with Solitaire. Um, you have abilities with it. I don't know. I mean,
It's
such
fun. Yeah.
such a different way of playing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go back to a regular.
I was just about to say it's very difficult to go back to a basic game like this. Like when my non-gamer family or friends, they go, "Oh, Scrabble. I love Scrabble," or "I love Solitaire." And I'm like, if they only knew about games like Solitarica or Balatro, which we'll get to later, if they only knew about games like this, they would have so much fun, but they don't want to take the time to learn it because they're not acclimated that much with, like, they get a little nervous, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom, you know, and my grandma loves Solitaire, but she, you know, if she were still alive, I couldn't imagine her enjoying these kinds of games because they would be too much for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if only I can get, if there's a game out there for everybody, it's just a matter of getting them to like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway,
It's also like a bit more modernized. So if like you play these games that have abilities and that have extra stuff in it, it's kind of like a little overwhelming.
yeah.
So I understand it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So all right, moving on. We're almost done, I swear. There is a game that you introduced me to on the phone, and then it was free on the phone, but with ads, which I didn't like. So I bought it on the PC, which doesn't have ads, which is great. It's called Void Tyrant, and in this game, you're trying to play cards to get as close to, it's like blackjack, where you're trying to reach a certain point value without going over, and your opponent is doing the same thing. Your PC, your AI opponent will be doing things as well to try and get to that value, like, without going over. So you're trying to get the closest without going over, and if you do, you typically get some kind of attack ability, whatever, with that. Although I will say it's a bit RNG heavy in the way it plays, but it's still fun because, like in a typical roguelike, you're getting cards that help you over time. Weapons, abilities, it's different things like that. There's mana management in this game, like certain cards require a certain amount of like mana to play. So that's something you have to manage as well. You introduced me to it, so you've been playing this longer. Did you get far with this?
I got pretty far with it. It's just like Solitaire with abilities, but this is blackjack with abilities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in just a roguelike setting, you get weapons and you just have to not bust. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you just keep hitting until you don't bust, and there's ways to mitigate your numbers when you do hit. It's really cool. It's one of those taking a classic game and amping it up, you know, putting steroids in it.
Yes.
So.
And that was Void Tyrant. Void Tyrant. Again, it's on the phone, but there's ads, which I didn't care for. I uninstall games that have ads. Forced ads, anyway. Next is something I added. It's called Pop-Up Dungeon, and I added this for the benefit of you D&D players, your role-playing stuffs, whatever it may be. This allows you to import pictures, to create characters, to create enemies, to give them different point values, attack, give them different cards, adjust. You can even create abilities in this game. There's another game similar to this called MMORPG Tycoon 2, I think it is, where you can create your own MMORPG online, and you can create characters and abilities. But this game is more tabletop-y in the sense that there's a library of cards already made for you, but you can import pictures and create your own cards, create your own abilities, adjust the values, and you can create campaigns for people if you want to within the scope of this program. It's not D&D 5e by any means, but, bless you,
Excuse me. Sorry.
No, I have to give you a...
No.
No, sorry. Close enough. Okay.
You're a Libra, aren't you, darling?
Yes.
No.
So, all right. So, have you seen me play it? But have you actually touched this?
No, I've not done
Is it
that.
too overwhelming for you, or is it just?
A little bit. It's a little bit overwhelming, and I don't really know what to do in it, kind of. Like, I know you can make your own thing, but is there a campaign? Because I like campaigns. So
Yes,
I like things
there
where
are
I can
built-in campaigns. Like, think Wildermyth. Do you remember Wildermyth?
I do.
Think that, but instead of it being so whimsical, it's more like it's a sandboxy template kind of thing. There are pre-constructed missions and scenarios for the player to do, but behind that 25% of content is 75% of this dungeon builder that you can make characters. It's extensive. It really is. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if it's held up though. This was back in, I couldn't tell you. This was maybe 2 or 3, 4 years ago since I've last touched it. But anyway, that was, pop-up dungeon. Something. Yeah, apparently that didn't go very well there. I've got an arm coming out of my nose.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So this is something that could probably, you can take and put it into an actual board game. But don't they already kind of have that?
Well, yeah, D&D. I mean, you can create characters and stuff like that. But like for those of you that like, if you don't feel like sitting there going through all your papers and all your minis, and you wanna create like a D&D like experience with your own stuffs without going through all the hassle on the board game side, this might do it for you. I couldn't tell you, but it's something, So that's my opinion anyway, for what it's worth.
Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, just play Baldur's Gate. The next one I want to touch on, this is a game that okay, my chess background, I used to be professional when I was younger. And then when I hit high school, I was too busy. But I'm a huge chess player. And
as you can see, per his background.
yeah, sure. We'll go with that. I'm not that good. I mean, I'm no Magnus, obviously. I think my rating was, when I was younger, I was only 1,400, something like that. Whereas Grandmasters are like 2,500 plus. But anyway, this game is called 5D, not 4D, 5D chess with multiverse time travel. And oh my god, it is extensive. It starts you off on one 8x8 board, but from there it's nuts. There are different modes that you can play. There are certain modes that limit the board size. There are new pieces that you can add to the mix. But the main shtick of this game is you can, on your turn, move a piece back in time to a different spot and create its own, like there's a timeline that goes from left to right. You can create new timelines from left to right, but you can only have so many active timelines at a time. So you just can't keep creating timelines and creating all this chaos. Only the last 2 that you've created will be active. Only is it when your opponent creates their own timelines do your old ones begin activating again, if that makes it's a lot to cover. But suffice it to say, you can move pieces back in time or whatever, and you can actually checkmate the king back in time, because like I said, you're just gonna have to play it for yourself and or watch a video, because it's ridiculous. Someone made this game, and I'm super impressed by it. I'm not good at it. I'm just super impressed by it.
You're actually very good at it.
No,
for the record,
I've seen people play this game a lot better than me. Like they're really good at, well, the king was checkmated 13 moves ago because nothing blocked it in between from now to the past. Like checkmating the king in the past is like the go-to thing, because the king can't block it, because there's nothing you can do to stop it because it happened in the past. Just me saying that makes me sound like a crazy person, but it is a thing in this game, So yeah, if you play chess and you want something to hurt your brain, or at least bend it a little bit, then you may want to check this game out. But just be prepared to have your mind blown, because bishops, for example, they don't move diagonally back in time. They move orthogonal back in time. Because in this game, like, when you're moving back in time, it simulates you moving in a particular square orthogonally. So a bishop in this game, think of it as moving up and right to get to its space. So instead of it moving up and right, it might move up, but then instead of going right, it goes back in time. So it actually moves orthogonal back in time. It takes some time to wrap your head around how the pieces interact with each other, but it's still fun when I'm in the mood for it. You know what I mean?
I would not touch this game with a 10-foot pole. No way. My brain would explode.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's tough though. There is a learning curve. Lastly, well, maybe not lastly, this is a game that this is the most recent of games. This is that gray area that I kind of mentioned earlier. We didn't know if it really was a board game or not. This one is called Balatro, and it's the most recent. This fits in the line of games Spell Rogue, Slay the Spire. There are so many. Ever since Slay the Spire, what's that game that you mentioned that Klee Entertainment made? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, I don't know. Dicey Dungeons?
No, Don't Starve. They made Don't Starve. They made Grifflands or Griff...
Oh, Grifflands,
yeah. So, it's that long line of card games that typically pit you against a foe or a series of foes in a roguelike manner. Balatro is a game where you have a deck of cards and you're using your cards to create poker hands, and the poker hands that you create will damage the enemy. But in between, you can upgrade your cards, you can get special abilities, you can make certain hands better, like a 2-pair will now do ×2 damage, or, give it a multiplier of some kind. So, I don't know if this is technically a board game or not, because you could technically play it as a board game given the right components. But like Slay the Spire and like all of those games kind of run together because they've all got the same theme. They've got cards and you've got turns and you're using your cards to attack the enemy in some way, but how you do it depends on the game. Do you think this is a board game at all? And, do you have a favorite one out of all of these different games that you've played?
I think any game really could be translated into a board game. It just depends how you do it and what the components are and how much time you got,
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a favorite. They're all really good, and then there's a lot of bad ones, but there's a lot of good ones. So I don't know. I can't think of any favorites right now.
No. I know I put you on the spot a lot, but
yeah, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. So I would say look at Balatro, which is more recent, and then Spell Rogue, all one word, which is more recent. Those games, I think, are the games that we're talking about here. They will give you a clue as to what we're talking about. And there we go. Space Food Truck. I don't have any videos of this one. I cleaned out my YouTube channel about, I want to say 6 months ago or so. For lack of a better term, it was a hoarder situation. I had over 10,000 videos, and a team of experts had to come and be like, do you really need this video? It has 10 views. And I'm like, but I really want it. It's everything I've ever done, and it's a work of art, and I work so hard on these, and and I had to let go. So there's 6,000 or so videos that I had to delete or got rid of because they weren't performing, and I cleaned everything up. I got rid of all of them. I had like 400 to 500 playlists. I whittled that down to 10 or 14, 15, something like that. So everything's better organized. And so I long story short, I had videos of these games, but they got deleted because they weren't performing well. But I may re-review them at some point. But anyway, Space Food Truck is a game where you're a food delivery spaceship, and you have to deliver to 3 different locations. But in order to deliver food to the customers, you first have to find the ingredients in the galaxy. And you're also trying to prevent your ship from blowing up because bad things are happening to it. Each crew member has its own unique deck of cards, and you can get new cards for these crew members over time. The problem with this game that I have is that there's no difficulty setting, and it's very unforgiving, very difficult. I've never beaten it. It makes me rage quit. It's a fun game, and it's very unfortunate because it doesn't allow the user to create an experience unique for them or best for them. So I recommend Space Food Truck, but only if you don't mind losing regularly.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough game, and to put this on a board game would be really difficult just because of the many components that it would have. But it could happen. I think it could work. There are
a couple of games, like the Great Heartland Hauling Company is a pick up and deliver board game, and this would be a good pick up and deliver game. But at the same time, like you said, you'd also have a deck of hazards that you'd have to manage. There are a couple of games in the same vein as this. The Captain is Dead or something like that. There's a couple of board games. The Captain is Dead. The spaceship has to be repaired by the crew members, and the aliens are attacking. So it's kind of similar to that, but in this case, you're a food delivery spaceship. I like the game, but it's difficult. Just be warned of that. And it was made back in 2016, so good luck getting any support for it now. Another one I wanted to touch on was a game called Concrete Jungle, made back in 2015. This is it's kind of like SimCity, but it's a tile-laying game like Carcassonne. And what you're trying to do is complete rows. And when a row is completely filled, it scores. And you can actually chain things depending on how long you wait to do these things. You can either play solo or against an opponent. There's like a campaign. And the different buildings have different... the cards that you have different effects. There's like pollution and different things like that. So if you want it like a city builder, but you wanted it in like a tile-laying, point scoring kind of thing, this game might hold your interest, but I will warn you that there is a huge difficulty spike in the campaign around level 2 or 3. I don't remember which it is because it's been years, but it got super hard, and it frustrated me to the point where I stopped playing it. Still, if you don't mind, being, picked on and beat up by the AI, then you still want to take a look at this game anyway. Because I like the abstractness of it, but I didn't like the difficulty spike.
Yeah, I was frustrated with this game. I did the same thing you did. I stopped playing it midway because it just got so difficult. And I know it's getting dark outside. And
yeah, I know. I can't see you. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way.
Open up Excel if you can, and just keep that white screen on. There you go. I'm like, you're over the course of this hour, you've been slowly disappearing, and I
tried so hard.
Yeah,
It's a very difficult game, and it's frustrating. But if you can get a handle on it, this could have been a very good board game, I think.
I agree. And the last one, I just want to quickly touch on. This developer has Brain Good Games has a number of abstract games. This one was my favorite. Solar Settlers is a card game where it's turn-based. You're trying to complete your objective within a certain number of turns or rounds, and what you do is you move crew members around. You're trying to I don't even remember anymore what you're doing. Let's just read the description. I remember there's cards. Solar Settlers is a card-driven space exploration strategy game. Our sun is on the verge of collapse, and mankind has taken to the stars. So yeah, you're trying to colonize planets in this game, if I remember correctly. And you also have resources...
I'm sorry, I was going to say it's a heavy resource management card game.
Yeah, it's also like turn-based. How efficient can you be with what you have? So if you like puzzles, and you like abstract games, cards being on the table and moving things around, this may be a game for you. Again, Brain Good Games has some other abstract games out there. I don't know if this is going to work, but if I click on this, if I scroll down, Militia 2, Rolling in the Reef was good. Sky Boats, Axes and Acres I recommend. That was fun. You're building a small town settlement and enemies are attacking you. Like that's a decent digital board game as well. It doesn't look as pretty, but it's still decent. So Axes and Acres. So yeah, take a look at Brain Good Games, particularly Solar Settlers, and if you have time, Axes and Acres. They're all pretty good. And that's everything that I had as far as the list is concerned. Is there anything you want to talk about, or are you good?
I think I'm good. I think we touched on all the bases.
Okay.
I'm sure there's tons more games out there that we missed.
Oh yeah, there is. And again, there are probably a lot of games out there that skirt the line. You know, is it really a board game? There are, like, Gremlins Inc. is a clear board game. It's a clear digital board game. Whereas others like Balatro and Spell Rogue, it's like Slay the Spire, which is not really a board game, but it could be, that kind of thing. So some games are more board gamey than others, but that list that we just came up with is a decent. If you're looking for, if you play a lot of board games and you want something different, then check these out, because you'll find something in here probably that you'll like. And just to quickly go through my Patreon thank yous, I don't do a whole lot of Twitch streaming anymore, so I don't have any Twitch subscribers anymore, just because I don't do a whole lot of Twitch streaming due to health reasons. But I still have some Patreon folks that I want to recognize. Ratsies is continuing to pledge $150 every month, and he's contributed $8,630 to date, which is amazing. A longtime supporter, totally appreciative of that. Brian, also $50 every month for a lifetime of $2,350. Very appreciative of that as well. Greg pledged $10 for a lifetime of $812. Rip Alpha pledged $1 for a lifetime of $43, and Alyssa Barrett pledged $1 for a lifetime of $17. So very appreciative. Other people have contributed in the past. These are just the active people right now. So whether you're contributed now or you contributed in the past and are no longer doing so, it means a whole lot. I'm kind of in like that Social Security limbo where I'm trying to get Social Security benefits and I'm waiting for the courts to do things, but it typically takes years for that to happen. So your support is incredibly important right now and very helpful. And, I appreciate any help that you give. So I guess with that being said, I have nothing else to say. Do you? Are you good?
Happy gaming, folks.
Happy gaming. All right, well, there you go. This is Vincent Idley. Thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.